Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Shubda Chaudhary, and I'm an analyst for Middle East and West Asian affairs. Today, in this video, we are going to talk about the student uprising that is going in Columbia, Yale universities in US. What is the history of it? Before we start, I would request you to subscribe to my channel so that you get all the in-depth analysis, which is very balanced, just in your notification bar. So in this video, I'm going to talk about three basic contexts. The first context is we all know that there is a genocide going on in Gaza. There's massive obliteration of human lives also happening in West Bank, something which I've been writing for in Frontline and Hindu and other newspapers. More than 35,000 people have been killed in Gaza. This is official data. So unofficial data would be much more. The settler colonialism is not receding in West Bank. There's a lot of injury, there's a lot of mayhem and turmoil also going on in West Bank. So as the genocide continues, the Israeli occupation is now facing the heat in the US campuses by the student uprisings. So the first context is, what is the history of student uprisings in US? Is it the first time that an uprising like this has happened? The second concept that I'm going to talk to you about is, what is anti-Semitism? Is any criticism of the settler occupation of Israel in Palestinian territories or criticism of the Zionist nature of Israel, does it mean that it is being anti-Semitic? What is the entire etymology or the history of the term? And the third context is, it has also come into a lot of news and the clutter of echo chambers that Qatar is funding a lot of money to US universities to have soft power. And that is one of the reasons why pro-Palestinian protests have emerged. So I'm going to go into the detail of that also. So let us first start with what exactly is happening in Columbia University. The first thing that we have to know is that more than hundreds of students have been arrested, detained, as they were camping out in Columbia University, in Yale. Also, there has been a massive walkout of students and even faculty members at Harvard University, at Brown University, Texas A&M University. The arrests are being done at a rampant basis. Columbia University's president has now stated the classes would be held online or remotely, maybe till the end of this year. Also, the New York Police Department and the state surveillance of US has been directly involved in now scrutinizing and having a certain kind of surveillance over the communication of students, the union, and the professors. It brings me to a very important question that Professor John Keane of Political Science at Sydney University asked, that what exactly is a university? Who decides the rules of the university? Is public speech allowed in a university? What guarantees a public speech and freedom of expression? He also mentioned that over the period of time, the campuses of universities are going through historical turbulent times. It's not just because of whatever is happening, the genocide of Gaza, but even before. It can be because of the climate crisis. It can be because of neoliberal capitalism, misogyny, racism, xenophobia, even artificial intelligence infiltrating. And of course, the surveillance levels. Immanuel Kant specifically stated that, universities today are not merely ivory towers with armchair intellectuals mudslinging each other. The universities today have evolved with the rise of technology, have evolved into spaces where one can have discussion, just like Habermas pointed out the concept of a public sphere that started with cafes and saloons. Universities do have to give right to students to express their opinions. Now, if students are not able to express or dissent, then what kind of democracy are we living in? That's the first question. The second question that one must think about is that it's not just in US that this is happening. It's happening in Netherlands, in Belgium, in Italy, in many countries of Europe. While the media might not be categorically providing evidence of it, but it's happening. The student protests are happening in Europe as well. Now, the question is it the first time that such kind of student protests have happened in the American campuses? The answer is no. Let's go back to the time when the Americans came out openly against US's intervention in Vietnam War. Or when the Americans came together when US intervened in Iraq in 2003. Most importantly, this kind of protests have been done by US students also in the boycott, divestment movements, the BDS movements against South Africa, the apartheid state of South Africa in the 90s. And the BDS movement and the inspiration of it and what we are seeing right now in the campuses is an emulation of that kind of effort. The students are specifically demanding that A, America should stop funding Israeli weapon systems, arms and ammunitions. B, many companies like Google, BlackRock, Caterpillar, Airbnb, who are involved with contracts with Israel, need to be much more transparent. Now, the question is, what would be the ramification of it? And when would the Biden administration reach its tipping point? There's no ceasefire in sight. The idea of the human life being obliterated in Gaza as days go by, 7 months have gone by, is quite appalling. At the same time, if we just in an homogeneous binary talk state that the students or Gen Z or the Alpha generation, they come from the woke culture or easy cancel culture that doesn't really understand the ramifications of what they're talking about, is quite patronizing in its own way. Especially if we do not have empirical evidence. Now, let us look at the details of what exactly has happened so far. So, Columbia University has cancelled the in-person classes. Protesters were arrested, the student protesters were arrested in New York University and New York State. Even at Yale University, the student protesters were arrested. New York Representative Richie Torres, who is a Democrat, asked the Columbia University president, Minushi Shafiq, to resign. Now, Minushi Shafiq is an Egyptian, an Arab Muslim, and she has been the president of Columbia University. She has worked in LSE. She has been the vice chancellor at LSE. She has worked in the World Bank. The platitudes of her silence are also deafening in a certain way. But again, asking her to resign just because of whatever is happening in the campus is like finding a scapegoat, because the actual reason is, till the time there is a solution to the Palestinian question, such kind of protest demonstrations will unveil themselves in different forms, in different places. President of one university cannot be the scapegoat of the protests. But at the same time, calling the New York Police Department or the state surveillance, something which is quite nostalgic of the times of 9/11 and what US did to the Muslim population and the capitalist surveillance system which was involved, makes us wonder that was it a certain kind of overreaction by the part of the president of Columbia University? Now, online classes have been scheduled till the end of the year. A lot of students are asking the tuition fee back. Now, understand that in US education system, education is for the elite. It's very, very expensive. A lot of students have to pay the loans throughout their life. It is so very expensive. So there has been a walkout at USC Berkeley, at Boston University, at Harvard, at MIT. Even professors have come and supported, which is a very rare case. The professors who have their own spine and can stand for what is right or what is wrong have come together to support their students in this entire protest movement. Basan Khwaja, who is a lecturer at Columbia University Law School, was appalled that the president went to NYPD. Journalism professor Helen Benedict said that calling the riot police was an overreaction by the part of the president. Now, when we are talking about universities, there's one particular book that we must really talk about. Like US is lucky to have so many Ivy League private universities. There's a book that has come out by Maya Wind, which is about tigers of ivory and steel, which talks about how Israel has been annihilating Palestinian education and universities. Not a single university is left in Gaza anyway. So if we are that importantly aware of the fact that no, we have to fight for education and universities are places to study and not to demonstrate, then have the same kind of principle when it comes to Palestine too. Why are the universities, Palestinian universities, being obliterated is a major question. What Professor John Keane has also said that one of the reasons why there has been a certain kind of pressure that has been felt by US universities and many private universities all over the world is because they have now become government designated agencies or policy and profit seeking business enterprises or even bureaucratic enterprises. So apart from universal knowledge or the pursuit of universal truth, if there is any, this kind of micromanagement of universities tends to open up their entire economic infrastructure for funding. One of the reasons why, if there is an entire idea that Qatar is involved in funding, then why did US allow it? Now, coming to my second part of what exactly is Semitism or anti-Semitism. So let's start with Noah's story, Genesis 10 in Bible. When God believed that the world is filled with wickedness, he chose Noah and asked him to make an ark and asked him to bring his family members and one male and female of every animal he could find. And then the God flooded the world for 40 days. The water receded in 150 days. It was a Noah's ark that was made of wood, saved the lives and continued with the longevity of the human race and the animal race. Now, Noah had 3 sons. They were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. When you come to the etymology of what is Semitic, it is not race. The etymology or the origin of Semitism is basically on the basis of language. Though a lot of historians have believed that Shem, Noah's son, the language that he used, eventually became Semitic. But that has been debated. Linguistically, when we talk about linguistic terms, Semitic basically means a family of languages which have originated in West Asia or Middle East. These languages are Arabic, Jewish, Hebrew, and Aramaic. Ancient people who were considered as Semites are Arabs, Jews, Akkadians, and Phoenicians. Now, hijacking any kind of criticism which is against Israel or the Zionist nature of the apartheid state of Israel and calling it anti-Semitic is specifically not understanding what is the etymology of Semitism. Even Arabs can claim that any kind of xenophobia against them is anti-Semitic, by the way. I hope that this particular narrative makes it easier for you to understand the ramifications of the terminologies that we use. Semitism is not about a race, it's about language. Coming to the third point, which is very important, there was a news article which was written by Tal Snyder in Times of Israel, stating that Texas A&M University received 404 million Qatari money from 2015 to 2023. In 2022 study, Qatar contributed to $4.7 billion to dozens of US institutions. These were either marked as gifts or restricted agreements. Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh received around $301 million from 2020 to 2023. Virginia Commonwealth received $125 million from 2019 to 2013. Georgetown University received $210 million from 2015 to 2023. Harvard University received $8 million since 2020, and Cornell University has received $1.5 billion since 2015. So the basic question in this context is that why is then US allowing it? If there was the entire ideation that Qatar is using it to balance its own soft power, then why is US allowing it? Is it the form of neoliberal capitalism that has emerged in this kind of discourse? But the most important thing is that why are the companies like Caterpillar, BlackRock, Google, Airbnb now being silent when the students are demanding transparency? Silence is an answer in itself. All of this, I hope that it makes sense, but it makes me wonder about a story. This was a story when a reporter once asked A.J. Mustek, who was a Dutch-born American citizen, who was protesting every day with a candle in front of the White House. The reporter asked him, "Do you think that praying with a candle will change the country?" Mustek laughed, and he said that I'm not praying that my candle will change the country. I'm praying that the country does not change me. I hope you liked the video. I hope that you continue to see the historical context of what universities are, why they're important for the freedom of speech and expression. Teaching is also curation. It is not only of a binary. Today, we do not live in a world of realism or liberalism or neoliberalism. As people are getting more aware, we are living in a world of social constructivism when people know their own identities and interests and can connect with each other in meaningful ways to have discussions and debates. At the same time, one must not forget, with every day passing, the genocide in Gaza continues, the obliteration of lives in West Bank continues. There's no solution, be it two-state or one state, which is being entertained by Israel. The Israeli hostages, more than 130 of them captured by Hamas, have not been found yet. Recently, the Israeli military chief also resigned. But the person who is carrying out the carnage, Netanyahu, who wanted to stay out of prison and wanted to change out the entire judicial system of Israel, is still controlling the game. Protests are happening in Israel too. The country is going through a security dilemma, but also a domestic concern, and the protests are against Netanyahu and the judicial ramifications that his policies will bring. Let's not take away the power from people. Let's not patronize them. Let's not speak without historical context. And let's become tolerant in a democratic way, where we do not have to indulge in cancel culture, but also to entertain each other's view and give a retort in a much more nuanced and experienced matter. With this, I'm signing off. My name is Dr. Shubhda Chaudhary. Please do subscribe to my channel, and thank you for the privilege of your time. Bye.